Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of Crime in Court USA. I'm your host, Mundo Carrillo, recording this on May 11th, 2021. This is my bi-weekly show where I tell you about crime and legal news in America. I appreciate you guys for tuning in today. I also hope you guys had a nice Mother's Day weekend. I still live close to where I grew up, so I got to hang out with my mom. Had to be at Outback Steakhouse at 11:30 in the morning on Sunday, which is usually before I eat breakfast, but it was a good time. I was happy to do it. But we're going to talk about a pretty tragic Mother's Day weekend today. There's a lot of gun violence around the country. Let's just get into it. Just over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, there were more than 260 shootings across America. 94 people died and 236 were injured. That's according to the Gun Violence Archive. And the shootings happened in 37 states. And the general number of shootings in the country appears to be on the rise. Gun Violence Archive founder Mark Bryant told the Washington Post that shootings rose substantially in 2020 when we were all under quarantine, which is interesting because you would think that as people were quarantined that gun violence would actually go down, but Mr. Bryant here is saying that it actually went up. He said that in 2020, nearly 20,000 people died from gunshot wounds, and that's not including suicides. So far, the total in 2021 is 6,700 people dead in shootings. Now, the Washington Post defined a mass shooting as when 4 or more people are killed. In 2020, there were 5 mass shootings. But so far in 2021, there have been 8. Just off the top of my head, there was the one in Georgia where the guy killed 8 people at spas. In the Atlanta area, there was the one at the FedEx facility in Indianapolis, where a former employee killed some people at the facility as well as himself. There was one at the grocery store in Boulder, Colorado. And over this weekend, there was another one in Colorado. Early in the morning, on May 10th, a man killed 6 people, then himself, at a birthday party in Colorado Springs. There were children present, but no children were injured. The victims were all part of the same extended family, and the suspected shooter is believed to be the boyfriend of one of the victims. Police haven't officially released the suspect's name. They're still trying to find a motive, but he is believed to have killed himself with a gunshot wound to the head. And those deceased are Melvin Perez, Mayra Perez, Joanna Cruz, Jose Gutierrez, Sandra Ibarra, who is believed to be the girlfriend of the shooter, and Jose Ibarra. And just to touch up on the Atlanta case that I mentioned earlier, a prosecutor in Atlanta said that Robert Aaron Long, who killed 8 people in the area in March, had targeted 4 of the victims in Atlanta because they were of Asian descent, making it a hate crime. So now they're going after the death penalty in this case in Indiana. In Atlanta. He's actually facing 2 separate cases because he killed people in the Atlanta area, which is in one county, and then he left just outside Atlanta and killed 4 people in a different county. So he's facing 2 separate cases, which is what happens I've seen this before in New Mexico where this guy kind of did the same thing. He shot people in one county and then shot more in another county. So there were like 2 separate cases against him for the same, not incident, but for the same. It all happened in one day, same as in Atlanta. So even if that happens, if you do commit crimes in different counties, you'll be charged in those different counties. There was another tragic shooting over the weekend, although it wasn't a mass shooting. A San Antonio man was charged with murder for shooting a 6-year-old girl at a car club at a meeting on the city's west side on Sunday, May 9th. Police have arrested Andrew Ray Elizondo, who is 23, outside his home on Monday, May 10th, on a capital murder charge for shooting 6-year-old Soraya Perez, and a bullet also grazed the mother's back, although she doesn't seem to be gravely injured. Elizondo has been described as an acquaintance of the victim's mother, but he doesn't appear to be her boyfriend, so it doesn't look like a domestic situation. And this happened during some kind of altercation at the meeting. Videos that KSAT TV, a TV station in San Antonio, videos that they got showed people getting into like an argument or something, and then a car drove off with people chasing after it, and then 4 shots were fired. And I don't believe police have released too much in this case as well as I'm recording this podcast. So young Soraya was shot in the chest, and she later died at the hospital. Oh boy, gun violence, man. This is tough because, shootings definitely have gone up. Mass shootings have definitely gone up. And actually, as these mass shootings come up, they're not even really the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the total amount of shootings in America each year. most of the shootings that happen in America are done with handguns, and I suppose they're more personal. I would say they're not so random like a mass shooting. Well, those people don't care. They'll just start shooting anyone. So yeah, there's a problem with mass shootings, but there's just a problem with shootings in general. And the big question is, how do you address it? It's a tough one, because as soon as you start talking gun control, people kind of start freaking out. And there's this rhetoric that goes around that the government's trying to take their guns and stuff. And anytime there's any kind of rumblings of people or a government passing gun control, gun sales go up. And in fact, gun sales went up during the pandemic. I think we all know some people that went out and bought a gun as soon as the lockdown went into effect, right? So I don't know, man. I don't know how you address this kind of stuff. So it was a pretty deadly weekend. And mass shootings, again, 5 in 2020 and now 8 in 2021. We're not even halfway through the year. So I don't know, man. Everyone has their different thoughts on the issue. People think that they should fully have a right to bear arms, and yeah, it's a constitutional right, but something needs to be done about all the violence, right? Something really needs to be done. I don't know what that is. I do not know. I don't think anyone really has the answer. But yeah. Anyways, let's kind of change gears here. Talk about 2 Americans who were sentenced to life in prison in Italy for killing an Italian officer. So the story goes that back in July 2019, 2 friends from the San Francisco Bay Area, Finnegan Lee Elder, who was then 19, and Gabriel Natale Horth, who was then 18, they were in Rome and they wanted to score some drugs. So they met up with a drug dealer, and instead of being sold cocaine, they were sold pain pills. So that caused the Americans to steal the drug dealer's backpack and run off with it. And the drug dealer then used a different phone to call the phone that he had taken from him. And they all agreed to meet back up. But unbeknownst to the Americans, the dealer had called police and told them about the robbery. So 2 officers, Mario Cercielo Rega and his partner, Andrea Variale, showed up to the meetup spot in street clothes. Now, Elder, on the stand during his trial, said that he thought the officers were other drug dealers who were there to rob him. And so he ended up stabbing Cercielo Rega 11 times with a 7-inch combat knife, causing the officer to bleed to death. Elder actually brought that knife with him. He bought it in America and brought it with him to Europe. But his partner said during the trial that they showed the Americans their badges and clearly identified themselves as officers. So Cielo Rega, who was only 35, had just got back from his honeymoon, and his police commander had told reporters that he forgot his gun that night. Elder seems to have had some issues of his own. He apparently suffered from drug addiction and mental health issues. He had attempted suicide in the past, and his mother told Good Morning America after the verdicts came down on May 5th, which they were convicted after a trial and sentenced on the same day. And then a couple days later, Elder's mom spoke to Good Morning America, and she said that her sending her son to Europe, she thought would help him grow up, because she made a similar trip when she was young, and she went to Europe for a few months and said it really helped her grow. So she thought that that a similar trip would do the same for her son, and she was worried about his mental health in prison, which I think he's gonna spend the rest of his life in prison, although the case may be appealed, because apparently there was a photo that leaked that showed the teens, they were blindfolded and handcuffed, which it's illegal in Italy to blindfold a suspect. And this is when they apparently got the confession out of the boys that they killed the officer. And by the way, his friend, the other American, who I'll just call Gabriel, because I don't want to ruin his last name. But he got convicted of murder for basically not doing anything about. Elder's the one who killed the officer, but the other guy, Gabriel, got convicted for just, I guess, not really doing anything about it. Anyway, so they got a confession out of them, but they may have been blindfolded while they were doing it, so they might try to get that confession thrown out. So we'll see how that one ends up. And that is about all for today, guys. I appreciate you all listening. Remember to share the podcast. Remember to rate it, to review it. This is a brand new podcast, so if y'all could help me spread the word about it, I'd greatly appreciate it. I'll be coming out with another episode on Saturday. I hope you guys will tune in. My name is Mundo, and I'm out. Peace.